collectively we are Dog Kennel Hill Project.
Yeah.
Ben Ash.
Ben Ash.
Yeah.
And I'm Rachel Lopez de la Nieta.
I'm Henrietta Hill, but Henny. We had some ideas and a concept of how to kind of put an idea together, and we made a really cool video, so we got this commission, and then we had to sort of name ourselves. So, and that's why we were living, as a collective, suddenly having a commission meant that we had to actually turn ourselves into something.
Yeah.
So we were all living on Dog Kennel Hill Estate.
What sort of time was this?
It's like 2003.
Right.
But I don't think we had the sense that necessarily this was something that was the beginning of something that would. I don't know if we felt like this is going to endure across, 15 years and become. We didn't set out to kind of become this company with a trajectory that we already understood. I think that the sense of the project was that it was kind of a bit experimental, sort of laboratory on some level. There was a lot of understanding, but also a lot to be evolved and understood as we moved forwards with what we did. So
I actually prefer working with other people than on my own. I'm not someone that can just sit on my own and come up with genius ideas. It doesn't happen like that. It only happens in dialogue. But I don't even think the work we make is very singular very often. It's very layered, and that's because of there's just different voices that are in there and they're accommodating each other.
I mean, for me, it's always felt a little restricted to just be in with the body and not to kind of be able to play with all the other potential materials that are available. Just feels like a bit like, why wouldn't you?
Maybe we don't see ourselves so much in dance, but I think we would still always see ourselves within choreography, but what's choreographic can involve anything. So choreographic for a screen, or choreographic for a space, or choreographic for any other space. So I think it will always be choreographic.
We also like to put things together that we don't know what the pattern will emerge. We let pattern emerge, and we look for things in the instigation of what materials we put together.
I think a lot of it is a sort of just desire to be immersed physically in a thing that is sort of active. So you are active, and you're active with a thing, and it's the immersion into something that then allows meaning to emerge.
There's a lot of trying on of things, so whether that's sticks or bits of film that we, rolls that we, and then we see what that provokes, I suppose, and that becomes work often.
So there are kind of several sort of grand themes that we've been wallowing around in and dealing with, and within those themes there have been these kind of distinct strands or works that have evolved. And so we are opening those and the practices of those as the working practices as
and the shells
rhythms
as well of the practices in a way. I think something about the video material that has a kind of sort of shell-like quality, or
the work sort of doesn't exist anymore. If the work happens somewhere else, or what's left, I suppose that's this notion of the shell, is what's left is we have video documentation of parts of things, rehearsal footage, or footage of recordings of some of the early improvisation that went into the material for the show. So they're much more kind of different sort of points in the landscape that went into make a project.
The kind of process, right?
Yeah,
and I think for me, I certainly feel I don't want to say the word theme again necessarily, but for a while I think I've been kind of grappling with this idea that actually, like the show or like the product, is that the work? Well, it seems to be then we're leaving out the whole of the work that is the process, the thinking, the relationships, the conversations, the encounters, the dynamics, and so although the works as shows don't exist within this exhibition, I think that what does exist is the flavour of the work, like the taste of the work that goes in.
So in the first 2 weeks of the show opening, we are going to be, not every day, but most days we're going to be working live in the exhibition as performers in a sort of performance practice, and in that we're sort of unpicking and revisiting excerpts from different past shows and practices. It's not the sort of the same cast that was in the other one, so it's almost like we're relearning work that we've already made, but
Yeah.
reprocessing it, and in the reprocessing of it, it becomes something else anyway. It's not the same as what it was, and that will take on all sorts of different shapes and forms, and it will look like
Yeah.
things that are funny or entertaining or not, or it'll fall
Oh.
apart and
Oh,
collapse. And but that's, you know, that's kind of exciting for us. It's like it's just a sort of brilliant way to be in the practice and be able to sort of do that thing of looking back whilst creating something new.
Yeah, Henrietta gave me Professor Timothy Ingles' book Lines, and as I read that, I just connected with this kind of line of thought and practice that he talks about in there, which he called wayfaring. So to refer to something he said in that, he stated, I developed a certain manner of carrying on, of combining movement and attention, which I've come to call wayfaring. And I just thought, well, you're talking about something that's what I know, that's what my practice is, this thing that I do when I work with these materials, where the materials on some level for me don't necessarily say precisely what they do as an outcome, yet the practice of working with them in a particular way is what you're describing there. So I was very stimulated by that. It's at the moment using a group or a tribe of these kind of simple sculptural forms, which are these tripods, and they'll be in the space actually. So there's a sense of kind of assemble and reassemble in a sort of DIY, self-evolving relationship with these sculptural structures. So there's something about kind of sensing and surveying the body, but also the body within the landscape or the environment. And the sense of that as a wayfaring encounter isn't necessarily a decision that I need to make about where I'm going with what I do, but if I just attend to what it is that I'm doing, something begins to unfold. So that's like the wayfaring pathway, and the encounter is then with what's happening for me, what's happening with me in this space, and maybe what's happening with me in another.
There's something about harnessing the energy of tension and crisis, and rather than all the kind of structuring and language and going and practicing, finding these kind of core energetic kind of ways of being, and kind of almost like exercising those energetic forces that come through violence or come through particular ways of being in dialogue.
It's not about being successful. You know, when I'm being Shelley Duvall, I know that I'm never going to be Shelley Duvall, but I'm in being as precise as I can with the physical manifestations of what I see on screen, and putting that on. Something happens in that's quite transformative, because and I think it sort of resonates somehow in the space. Somehow
through kind of enacting and embodying these other, these things that we're kind of
forces,
like stepping into, you get this weird thing where actually like you do invest in the energetic thing. Yeah.
And it's not attached to meaning. It's like it's almost about taking the meaning out of the energy. So you're
dealing with the energy itself,
separating of materials in a way.
Yeah.
And because we practice, so much of the practice is about dropping things. So dropping, letting go, and dropping them,
and stepping into again.
And it's about the rhythm of those things that create the kind of the event or the work or the. So it comes back to choreography, but
when I think about it, it's all sort of quite binaries. It's like switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off, totally, constantly. It's about trying to sort of channel things that are problematic in the world, but if you can sort of play with the substance of them, the physics of them in a way, I don't know, they might not matter quite so much.
There's an opportunity to see how we might be making all the time, making meaning, or like bringing relationships together. So there's something that's just enough about what's there to be getting along with, and actually then these things kind of speak to me or you in that way, that then I notice I'm making these meanings, and there's a kind of play in that, like you say, like nothing really matters, but therefore everything really does. There's a precision, and yet it's kind of mutable and changing. I'm inputting, like, can I see that, I'm giving meaning into it, I'm inputting.
Yeah, real potential and that kind of playfulness that I think might get into potentially. So
I think rhythm. I think there's a lot of rhythm in there.
I hope it might also be relaxing. Yeah, there's not enough things that are relaxing these days.
Well, they're not.
No.
Sorry, Henny.
Just in terms of like the.
with a baseball bat.
Yeah, but even sort of hysteria with the baseball bat, it kind of can be relaxing because it's sort of fun. It turns the sort of switching off some kind of hyper mode that I think we're in a lot of the time.